I actually wasn't going to talk about this today because my priority, as many of you know, is bringing the left together to defeat Donald Trump. And I thought over the weekend when I saw this story that talking about it might be divisive. But now that I'm seeing some of the reactions, I'm realizing that I have to talk about it to try to stop the divisiveness. So let's get right into it. In my mind, Noam Chomsky has never made more sense than he has made in the last 6 months in terms of the urgency and the importance of voting and of removing Donald Trump. And he's spoken really astutely and poignantly to the anti-Biden left, to the never Biden left, to people who in 2016 thought there was no practical difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And he recently said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that while you might be frustrated that you would have to lobby Biden to be more left, that under Trump, your city might just be underwater. And it's hard to be an activist for anything you care about if your city is underwater. And this was metaphorical in nature, but it lines up 110% with what I've been saying to everybody for years now. So Noam Chomsky was interviewed on a podcast by Brianna Joy Gray, who was previously on the Bernie campaign, and a guy named Virgil Texas, who I'm not familiar with, but I understand he's on the Chapo podcast, which I've never seen actually, but I believe is sort of prominent in some parts of the left. And they argued with him about approaches to the election. And after the interview, all sorts of divisive leftist takes came out saying Chomsky lost this debate and people should not vote for Joe Biden. And it's really been depressing to see. So let's look at the first clip and talk about it.
What are the long-term consequences of everybody on the broad left, Democrats, liberals, everyone, saying that under any circumstances, we will vote for a Democratic candidate as long as they are incrementally better than the Republican candidate? Does that way of thinking contribute to the rightward shift of the Democratic Party over years? And what mechanism will ever stop that shift if we're not willing to ever, under any circumstances, leverage our votes?
What you're saying, if you think it through, is we should help Trump win because maybe in the long run, that'll affect the Democratic Party. That's a terrible choice.
So this is merely dressed up accelerationism. It's taking a lame, dry cookie and putting good frosting on it, so to speak. It's the idea that by punishing the Democratic Party and the country, mind you, since you're conceding it would be incrementally better to have Biden, but you're choosing something else, you're saying punish the country, punish people, the planet, so that maybe at some future point, things get so bad that then it really moves to the left in the United States. It hasn't worked in history. And Noam Chomsky lays it out here.
Helping Trump win, as you're proposing, would mean 4 more years of destruction of the environment, getting possibly to tipping points, which would be irreversible, certainly making any effort to deal with it very difficult. It would mean stacking the judiciary with young, ultra-right lawyers, top to bottom, so that nothing would be possibly done for a generation, and I can go on and on. I don't think that's a wise choice, just on the hope that maybe sometime in the long term, the Democratic Party will pay attention to the fact that you're part of the 50% of non-voters.
What Noam Chomsky is talking about are the irreversible damages, irreversible climate damage, not irreversible, but at least irreversible for decades rightward shifts in the judiciary by giving Trump more judges in a second term. There are millions and millions of Americans who can't afford that. And, you know, I've said before, this isn't about me. I could easily say, sure, put Trump in another 4 years. It'll be wacky. It'll be entertaining. My show will do better. And then we'll finally go super left in 2024. Because the truth is, I'm fine either way. I'll get more clicks if Trump is president. I live in Massachusetts where I'm protected from some, but not all of this stuff, not the climate stuff for sure. That would be outrageously self-centered for me to do. And Noam Chomsky points that out. The damage to the population from climate and judges alone makes this idea immoral. Let's look at a little more of this. Here's Chomsky really distilling this very clearly.
Now we have a simple question. Do you want your grandchildren to survive? I think the people you're talking to say, yes, I want my grandchildren to
So
survive.
many people's grandchildren are already not surviving.
Yes,
That's
and
the
do you want
issue.
to ensure that they'll live underwater or have a chance to survive?
So many people aren't thinking about living underwater because they're incarcerated or they're unhomed.
Then as an activist, your goal is to get them to think about it, because that is what is at stake.
Again, crystal clear and pitch perfect is Noam Chomsky. Truly, this is the most sense Chomsky has made in a long time. Here's one other clip with the other host, Virgil Texas, and Chomsky again explaining the urgency of the situation and the absurdity that another 4 years of Trump might bring some socialist takeover in the next decades.
If these capitalist institutions result in recurring ecological crises and existential ones as they do, then isn't the real fight against those institutions instead of a reform that maybe gets us over the hump in 30 years, if it were possible to lobby those in power through activism, some kind of brokering, those who are beholden to the profit motive, even if it destroys the environment?
We have maybe a decade or two to deal with the environmental crisis. Is there the remotest chance that within a decade or two we'll overthrow capitalism? It's not even a dream, okay? So the point that you're raising is basically irrelevant. Of course, let's work to try to overthrow capitalism. It's not going to happen like that. There's a lot of work involved. Meanwhile, we have an imminent question. Are we going to preserve the possibility for organized human society to survive? Are we going to preserve the possibility for us to work to overthrow capitalist institutions? Or are we going to say, it's hopeless, let's quit? I prefer the first. You're calling for the second.
So Chomsky is just spot on. And unfortunately, people that are proclaiming that Chomsky was defeated here, it's created a second round of cheerleading of people feeling better about not voting Biden. And it's really tragic. And as Chomsky says, let's be activists for stuff once Biden wins. But if Biden doesn't win, our activism goes nowhere. There's no chance of anything if Trump wins. And that's the key point that Chomsky is making here. Let's be united around it. This is not a debate about blue no matter who. I don't even know who's seriously saying that there's any sort of validity to blue no matter who. It's Trump and Biden. Biden happens to be the Democratic candidate. Trump happens to be the Republican candidate. We've evaluated two options and picked the better one, making this a debate about the concept of voting for the Democrat, whoever they are, is ridiculous. We're 21 days out and it's Biden versus Trump. It's not blue no matter who or blue if this or blue is that. Really well done by Noam Chomsky. Let's come together around it. One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pakman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. Takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be, because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft, and it's free. There's no catch whatsoever. But if you want, Privacy also offers a $10 a month plan that gives you 1% cash back and lets you create 36 credit cards a month. and a $25 a month plan tailored more for small businesses where you can create 60 card numbers a month and much more. But definitely go ahead and at least get started with the free plan. You'll protect your financial info. Companies can't charge you unexpectedly. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pakman.